Hello and welcome. Today, I'm going to be talking about some more examples of power creep within the battle cats. Before I discuss examples of power creep, what even is power creep? For those who don't know, power creep is defined by a character, weapon, or any other mechanic in a game, usually once great in a game before becoming weaker either because of either something new being added to a game being more viable or is easier to use, or because the environment surrounding a mechanic changes into one where it's no longer suitable. To give a quick example, let's look at competitive singles Pokemon. Smogon, the most popular unofficial competitive Pokemon scene, has singles metagames for every generation that's split into tiers so that any Pokemon can compete with Pokemon of the same power level. OU being the highest tier and Ubers being sort of the ban list with their own metagame. In Generation 1, Exeggutor is seen as one of the best Pokemon in the OU tier due to Exeggutor being a Psychic type, which is one of the two best types in Generation 1 and is the best sleeper in the game due to its great relative bulk and typing compared to other sleepers. However, as the generations went on, Exeggutor fell through the cracks because it couldn't keep up with the new, more powerful Grass and Psychic types, along with several other additions that made Exeggutor sit in the worst possible tier, being untiered. Now before I talk about examples of power creep in the battle cats, why not give this video a like if you enjoy it and maybe even subscribe if you haven't already, as it helps out with the channel a lot. Do you think we can hit 650 likes on this video? Sounds crazy, I know, but I think we as a community can do it. With that out of the way, let's talk about the first wave shield unit in the game. Cat Machine Mark III is the true form of Cat Machine and was released on version 5.6. Cat Machine instantly gained one of the best niches in the game for his ability to not only be immune to waves, but to straight up negate them. This was revolutionary because being able to straight up deny wave attacks meant that you could use a lot of very powerful units that would usually be denied by said wave attacks. His massive 153,000 health and 94,000 damage with 10k DPS were very powerful as well, as at the time he was one of the tankiest units in the game, especially against red and alien enemies, almost nullifying Berserkori due to his wave shield and effective 600,000 health against red and aliens. He could also be used on other wave stages since he only gets knockback upon dying, meaning he can only not protect your units from wave attacks if the knockback effect was triggered against them, which was extraordinarily rare for a wave and a knockback effect to happen at the same time. The only real downside was his rather long force ring of 5.6 seconds. For 11 updates straight, Cat Machine was the uncontested best wave immune unit because he was the only one who could just straight up deny wave attacks. This changed in version 6.6 when Kotatsu Cat gained their true form and became Octopus Cat. This finally gave most players easy access to the legendarily rare Wave Shield ability and became the preferred Wave Shield unit almost instantly. While Octopus is obviously not going to be as tanky or hit as hard, the simple fact was that a unit that could recharge 6 times faster was only 20% of the cost was a whole cactus in Cat Machine Mark III sides. You also didn't have to think as hard about when to send in Octopus Cat compared to Cat Machine because of these two factors. Despite these two simple factors making Octopus Cat a serious contender for the superior wave shielder, this doesn't mean that Cat Machine was completely outclassed because, while yes, Octopus was much more spammable and is a lot easier to access, Cat Machine has 60 more range than Octopus. The only wave enemies that Octopus can actually outrange were the Legs family of enemies, who only have 100 range. This simple range difference lets Cat Machine outrange a few but significant wave enemies. These include Berserkori, St. Elizabeth the 56th, and Dober PD. Throw in mini-waves and Cat Machine can also outrange Boar Jr., although this is the only mini-wave enemy that Machine can outrange but Octopus can't. Another thing that doesn't make Octopus truly superior in the Wave Shield metagame is due to the fact that Cat Machine was still very tanky. To illustrate this point, I'm gonna compare Octopus and Cat Machine's health with max talents. Octopus at level 40 with max health talents has 42,000 health and at level 50 has about 52,000 health. Cat Machine has 237,000 health at level 40 with max health talents, and at level 50 this number goes up to 291,000. These numbers tell us that Cat Machine is 5.6 times bulkier than Octopus. This reveals that while Octopus is much easier to use due to their costed recharge, Cat Machine still has the equivalent bulk for an equivalent price in recharge. Speaking of talents, I'm going to be doing a very fast discussion about Cat Machine's talents before discussing wave shielding as a whole being one of the most major examples of power creep, because their talents are all relevant in Cat Machine's wave shielding abilities. Cat Machine has 3 relevant talents. These are movement speed up, knockback immunity, and defense buff, but I won't discuss the defense buff since I already did that. Freeze and attack buffs aren't worth the investment. Knockback immunity in terms of wave enemies alone isn't too relevant since only Cyberface, the Titan family, and Kangaroo Teacher have it, but it can make floors 37 of both Heavenly Tower and Infernal Towers a bit easier, and make certain bosses like Puvsley and Black Okame easier to stall, as an example of knockback immunity outside wave shielding. Their speed talents give them enough speed to work as the opposite of another wave shield uber, Warden Emma, who specializes in constant repositioning with high speed, whereas Cat Machine specializes in taking hit after hit. Now here is where I would put a good transition with Warden Emma to discuss wave shields and how Cat Machine, as an example of power creep, was a good way to transition into the wave shield ability as a whole, power crept waves, but I'm not good with transitions, so here is where the discussion of wave shield units as a whole is coming up next. Wave Shield as an ability in itself is one of the biggest forms of power creep in the Battle Cats as of yet. Since I've already discussed why Wave Shield is one of the most broken abilities in the game, I might as well cover every other Wave Shielder. There have been only 6 more units to gain the Wave Shield ability as of Cat Machine and Octopus. These are Ava Unit 00, Mighty Cat, Mighty Crystal Moo, Warden Emma, Tokyo Hatsune Miku, and Costume Neneko. While it is undeniably true that Ava Unit 00 and Tokyo Miku are better wave shielders than Cat Machine due to their much higher ranges, I am not going to be discussing them as an example due to them being collab units, and I doubt we're going to be getting any collabs from them anytime soon, especially for Evangelion since the rebuild movies are over. Crystal Moo is also a legend rare and has the exact amount of health as Cat Machine, but is 15 times slower, making him tied with the few units for being the slowest unit in the game, and is more expensive along with the recharge that is 3 times as long, meaning that Crystal Moo isn't replacing Cat Machine as a wave blocker anytime soon. Mighty Cat only works as a wave shielder if it's slowed or intercepting a long wave attack because of its Awakened Bahamut type speed and its high knockback count of 10. This leaves us with Warden Emma and Costume Neneko as our final wave shielders. Warden Emma comes from a set that is dedicated to fighting wave enemies, and unlike Super Cat, her knockback count can actually serve her well because she actually has the health to back up those 10 knockbacks with 255,000 health. She is also twice as fast as an untalented Cat Machine, meaning she can rush to the front lines faster, but as discussed before, Cat Machine's speed talents allow them to be an opposite version of Emma. Although one downside she has compared to Cat Machine is that because she has a multi-hit, this could cause her to not land all of her hits, and even then, 20k damage with 3.8k DPS backing it up isn't all that powerful. All of this is to say that you use these two for different reasons. Cat Machine to tank hits and deal tons of damage, and Emma to tank hits and readjust her position if things get dicey. Last on our list is a recent addition for version 11.9, this being Costume Neneko. Costume Neneko is meant to serve as a glass cannon version of the 2 collab wave shielders since she has a decent range of 310. This allows her to outrange almost every wave enemy in the game. However, she has an Achilles heel that makes her somewhat of a risk to use. She only has 15,000 health and a 58-second recharge, meaning that if a decent push from a group of enemies happens, it can cause her to die nearly instantly. This is why she should be used alongside Octopus Cat. However, her niche being one of the best answers against Corinium due to her crit ability and being able to stand outside his range is very valuable because this can allow either your other crit units to land the final blow or herself to do it, making her extremely valuable in stages featuring him. My god, the amount of times I've had to re-record that because I've accidentally said Corinium. So, like I said at the start of the Cat Machine section, Wave Shield is one of the most revolutionary abilities added to the game because fighting enemy wave attackers just demands tanks in order to fight them, especially with the likes of Berserkori, Toucan, and is the reason why Manic Macho Legs was one of the most difficult Manic stages in the game. Cat Machine gaining the Wave Shield ability was definitely revolutionary, but it was only limited to those who were lucky enough to have Cat Machine, but once Kotatsu gained their true form, almost everyone gained access to a Wave Shielder, rendering wave immune enemies in a state of true power creep due to Octopus's accessibility, and honestly, this video could just be about the Wave Shield ability as a whole, but I still have a few more examples of power creep I want to go through. In my last video about power creep, I talked about Kasajizo as a general attacker, and I can definitely say that statement was a bit controversial. However, I think we all can agree that Jizzo has been power crept in the scene of anti-black attackers. While Ring Girl was a decent attacker against black enemies, compared to Jizzo, Jizzo was simply better since it was more stackable and easier to send in, and for the cost of Ring Girl, you were only getting 50% more DPS for a unit that costed almost twice as much but was twice as tanky. However, that changed quite a bit in version 7.3 when Pizza Cat was added. Now you have a unit that was over 2 times as tanky and had basically the same DPS in terms of cost ratio, having 87% more DPS for 90% of the cost. In cash tight stages, Jizzo was still the better option, but still had to contend with a unit that basically dealt the same amount of DPS when looking at their cost to DPS ratio. Pizza Cat could still deal over 2 times the amount of damage Jizzo could do. Pizza became even more powerful in version 8.2 when it received its talents, boosting its attack to the point where you could get more bang for your buck just to use a max attack Pizza Cat. This doesn't even mention the fact that Pizza also gained cost down talents, lowering its price to only 1,065 cents, meaning that Pizza puts a lot less strain on your wallet and gives you a slightly easier time getting them out onto the field. Probably the biggest kick in Jizzo's stone statues is Pizza's level 2 wave attack, since this gives him ridiculous damage potential. To put the numbers out there, a Pizza that has max attack talents, landing a wave attack, lets him deal a ridiculous 150,000 damage against any black enemy that is directly under his huge stack of pizzas, even at level 30. The wave also allows him to chip down enemies up to 532 range, giving him a piercing range of 262. While the wave chance is only 30%, the fact that he has a decently fast attack rate allows him to pull him off quite often. There's literally only one relevant black enemy that isn't damaged from the wave, this being Director Kurosawa, but since his role is usually just to sit in the back and damage units that get too close, this doesn't really matter. Also, to bring up his health talents, this now makes Pizza 2.6 times tankier, and the range difference is only 50, so it's also kind of irrelevant in the anti-black metagame since Jizzo can't outrange any enemy that Pizza can't. While Pizza's slow talents aren't really necessary because Pizza can kill basically any black enemy he encounters in a couple of hits, it's still a small, nice bonus, but you don't really need this talent. To conclude this section about Pizza completely swamping Jizzo in the anti-black metagame, at level 40, a Pizza with a max attack and wave lets him deal nearly 200,000 damage, and at level 50, this number goes up to 240,000 damage against black enemies if a wave is pulled off. Divide these numbers in 2 to get the non-wave damage. This section was about the base form of Kasa Jizzo, and his alternate forms are more of a standard typical uber rare, with lots of damage, tanky, and expensive, so they weren't considered for the analysis. But Pizza Cat still puts a lot of competition on his 2 other forms since Pizza has such massive damage potential and comparative spammability due to not having the long recharge that a normal Uber does, and has a lower cost compared to a typical Uber. In terms of the anti-angel metagame, Jizzo honestly hasn't really been power crept in that area at all that much, and the only real competition as a cheap angel attacker it has received is with Mushroom Cat, who is a unit that isn't unlocked until late SOL or early UL at best, so I think he might be safe in that regard. Also, in terms of the fact that Mushroom Cat is slightly cheaper but has slightly lower range compared to Jizzo. While I definitely see the controversy that saying units like Courier and Cameraman are better than Jizzo as a general attacker, I don't think there's much controversy saying Pizza has definitely power crept Jizzo in the anti-black metagame. I want to state that for this section of the video, Uber rares are pretty much not considered in the discussion for floor 30, since if you had Shadow Gao or Shishaland Passaland as an example, the stage was decently easy compared to those who didn't have a wave immune Uber. Floor 30 back when it came out was one of the hardest stages in the game, and if you didn't have a powerful anti-wave Uber, Musashi was your only choice of a consistent damage dealer. Since the power level of the game was much lower back then, an enemy with 3 fast-hitting wave attacks that can kill an Awakened Bahamut in a near instant, to put into perspective of the power that Hermit Cat had, was something many guide makers just struggled to come up with back in the day. Not to mention the rather powerful support Hermit Cat had, with the 1000% Doge Dark being very strong for a Doge Dark at the time as an example. Even with the release of Octopus Cat, it was very tricky to bring him along to the stage since Hermit had almost twice the range with his high attack rate, meaning he would be killed nearly instantly. However, the introduction of units like Macho Crystal and Tourist Cat makes it a bit easier to stall Hermit Cat, and Bullet Train's increased speed along with a slight damage boost meant that dealing with the various peons became easier to defeat, since it became less susceptible for being killed by Hermit's wave attack. Other rushers introduced later on, like Cutter Cat, made it a bit easier to deal with Ginger Snaches since it was guaranteed to survive a decent percentage of Hermit's wave barrages, especially after receiving its true form, gaining wave immunity. All of this time, however, Musashi was still the main non-Uber backline attacker, until version 10.0 when it gained a friend, or rather, a challenger to the throne for the preferred wave immune attacker. If you saw my last video about power creep, you'll know why Dancer Cat is preferred for the wave immune attacker 90% of the time due to it having better stats. Also, check out that video after you're done watching this one. Though I will mention that it's a decent idea to pair both of them on this stage since Hermit can easily push and being able to have that failsafe is nice to have in case something goes wrong. Also, not to forget to mention Super Cat, while not being 100% reliable, could still be used on this stage since his wave blocker plus his immunity to weaken traitless enemies means he can give your other rusher units more chances to land hits against Hermit. Other actually decent wave immune units have also been released, with the likes of T-Master and Mushroom Cat, who both outrange Hermit, being valuable additions when fighting the stage, and of course, power creeping the stage. What was once one of the most challenging stages in the game has gotten a bit more manageable as the years went on, especially in the field of more options for anti-wave units and additions for more units specifically focused on taking on traitless enemies meant that the level's difficulty dropped quite a bit. Those were just a couple of more examples of power creep in the Battle Cats. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and leave a comment down below on what are some more examples of power creep in the Battle Cats. If you enjoy the content on this channel, why not hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you don't miss an upload. Anyways, have a wonderful day everyone.